परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
जय राम कृष्ण, जय राम कृष्ण, जय राम कृष्ण भगवान। गंगा के तट पर श्री दक्षिणेश्वर, गंगा के तट पर श्री दक्षिणेश्वर, भवतारिणी को पूजे पुजारी गदाधर। गंगा के तट पर श्री दक्षिणेश्वर, भवतारिणी को पूजे पुजारी गदाधर। गंगा के तट पर श्री आनंद बनाया, भवतारिणी का स्वरूप दिखाया। नर को का आनंद बनाया, भवतारिणी का स्वरूप दिखाया। पापी पापियों पार लगाया, पापी तापियों पार लगाया। महानाम मंत्र का महादान देकर, गंगा के तट पर श्री दक्षिणेश्वर, भवतारिणी को पूजे पुजारी गदाधर। गंगा के तट पर श्री दक्षिणेश्वर, गंगा के तट पर श्री दक्षिणेश्वर। पागल ठाकुर कहते हैं सारे कार्य सभी हैं उनके न्यारे। पागल ठाकुर कहते हैं सारे कार्य सभी हैं उनके न्यारे। पत्नी को पूजे माता बनाकर, पतिता उद्धारे मंत्र सुनाकर। पत्नी को पूजे माता बनाकर, पतिता उद्धारे गंगा के तट पर श्री दक्षिणेश्वर।
I am reading from the book Sri Sharada Devi and Her Divine Play by Swami Chetanananda. The topic is Mother of All. People normally walked barefoot in Jairambati, including Holy Mother's devotees from Calcutta who considered it holy ground. Sometimes the village children carelessly scattered broken brick chips and small broken pieces of earthen vessels in Holy Mother's courtyard. Swami Sarveshananda told this touching story. I remember this insignificant incident. The mother was at Jairambati. She was over 60 and not well. It was the dead of the night, about 1:30. My sleep broke and I saw a light in the courtyard from my room. Out of curiosity, I came out and saw someone doing something with the help of a kerosene lantern. I went down and saw the mother digging with a spade and picking up broken pieces of earthen vessels and bricks and putting them in a basket. Dumbfounded, I asked, "Mother, what are you doing?" Embarrassed, she replied, "I am cleaning this courtyard by picking up these broken chips." "Why are you doing this?" "My son, speak softly, otherwise others' sleep will be broken." Then she said in low voice, "You see, my son, some children have come from Calcutta. They live in the city and don't have the habit of walking barefoot. Here, people walk barefoot. Today, someone's foot was cut. So I am cleaning up these broken chips so that they will not get hurt." I said, "Mother, we can do this work. Why are you doing such a thing and giving up your sleep?" "Yes, my son, I know you can do it. But you are also tired from doing so much work in the household the whole day, so you also need sleep. I have no work. So when you went to sleep, I came to clean the courtyard." I said, "All right, now you give me the spade and I shall clean the courtyard. You go to your room and sleep." Mother said with a gentle tone, "My son, I shall do it. Because I am the mother. A mother does many things for her children. I do very little for you all. My son, you go and sleep. I have almost finished. Only a little is left." I could not say anything more. Tears trickled from my eyes. I thought, this is why she is the mother of all. Without sleep, she is not only cleaning the courtyard, she is also clearing the obstacles of her children from the path of their journey, and she will continue to do so. There is another small passage. Mother of all. One day in Jairambati, Nalini saw mother clearing away a devotee's dirty plate. She remarked, "My goodness, aunt, you are clearing away the defiled food of people of all castes?" The mother calmly replied, "People of all castes are my children." Her love unified the high and low, the rich and poor, regardless of caste. Swami Vireshwarananda recalled, One day at Jaramati, after my meal, I was about to carry away my dirty plate, but the mother took my hand and stopped me. She then took the plate herself. I said, "Why should you do this, mother? I can wash it." The mother replied, "How little I am doing for you. A child, as you know, soils the lap of the mother and shows its temper tantrums, but the mother calmly does her duty. You are highly cherished even by the gods." One day, Virishwaranandaji asked, "Mother, how do you look upon us all?" "I look upon you all as Narayana," Holy Mother replied. The Swami said, "Mother, we are your sons. If you consider us to be Narayana, you can no longer think of us as your sons." The mother calmly replied, "I look upon you as Narayana as well as my sons." This indicates how her divine and human aspects merged in her life. Let's see.
Short period of meditation. Let us sit calmly. Just breathe gently through the nostrils, thinking that we are drawing air what is pure and abiding from the atmosphere. Think that your body, mind and senses are all being rebuilt by pure and divine materials. Please think that there is a wall of light around you, protecting you from all obstacles. Let us enter into the inner sanctuary of our own heart and meditate on the abiding presence of the all-loving being, radiating joy, light, and peace. There's an interesting greeting of Holy Mother. We're supposed to talk today about from I to we, but that is more like from not me but thou. It is a case of complete self-abnegation. So we'll talk about a slightly less exalted level. By the way, Swami Kumar is in Alberta. If He'll be back in a few days, so in his absence we will talk about this topic. Always begin by reflecting on when we gather like this on Sunday morning, the role of the Sunday sermon. We come here to somehow get charged for the week, and Swami tells us that devotees have actually remarked on this, that when they go into the office on Monday, they go in with a smiling face, and others who come on Monday thinking, oh no, it's Monday, ask, why are you smiling? They say, because we got charged on Sunday according to the society. So it's a way we gather here to get ourselves charged for the week. In the lifetime of Sri Ramakrishna, devotees used to go on Sundays to meet Sri Ramakrishna and Dakshineswar, and they would gather there because they wouldn't have any office work, and when they gathered, then Sri Ramakrishna would welcome them and speak to them about spiritual life for the whole day, or as long as they could stay, and that would quicken their spiritual life. In some sense, that's what we do here too. I mean, yes, there is a formal service, there's a talk and so on, but really we're coming to have the company of Sri Ramakrishna, and he's seated there receiving us. And so that's the imagination, I think, that is very effective. When we come here and sit in the shrine room, we are, as devotees did 100 years ago, gathering in front of Sri Ramakrishna. And that's the main point, whatever else we may discuss. Holy Mother said once that as you get the fragrance of a flower by handling it, so also one gets a divine awakening by constantly thinking of God. And what the talks that we have here are meant in that spirit. That is to awaken in us the awareness or the feeling of the presence of God, the reality of God. There's a contrary, not a contrary, there's sort of contrasting view that Swami Vivekananda gives. The Holy Mother says it's a very gentle thing because you handle a flower and you get the fragrance of it. So also by repeatedly thinking of God, you get divine awakening. Swami Vivekananda said another thing, that whenever danger approaches, he says, and then he says, whenever danger approaches, then he picked up two rocks and he hit them against one another, smashed them. He said, I become as hard as that. Why? Because I've touched the feet of God. Now what's the connection between the two? The point is that by constant remembrance of the kind we're doing now, when the occasion demands it, when there's a challenge in life, when there's a challenge in our circumstances, the divine thought is what will come up and will give us strength and guide us. Sri Ramakrishna tells in the Kadamrita that the parrot can be taught to say the name of Rama. But when the cat catches it, what does it do? It just squawks. That's not what we want. We want, like this regularly, we meet, we think, we study, we try to recollect about the divine reality. Why? Well, first, it should help us in our life. In the challenges that we face in life, especially when we're in a crisis moment, it should be the thought of God that comes out first and foremost and helps us and guides us and gives us strength. And so therefore we need to do a lot of this. When things are good, things are happy, things are smooth or well, we need to make this kind of habit of gathering like this and hearing about the divine name. Spiritual life, as you know, in our tradition, especially, we emphasize this, it's a growth, it's an evolution. We evolved in a certain way to reach the human level. We've evolved physically, we've evolved also psychologically, but now we're trying to evolve in the spiritual dimension. That evolution need not be seen, and should not be seen in fact, as a struggle. Sometimes we think that we have to struggle to achieve something. It's a common kind of way that societies are tries to present to us, that to achieve anything you've got to struggle. Well, in a way you do, but spiritual life is and can be extremely pleasant as well. It's not meant to be a burden. Narada, in Bhagavatam, I think there's a story of Narada. He met a devotee and he was Narada, his travels between the worlds. So Narada was on his way to heaven to meet God, to Vishnu. And so on his way he met a devotee, and the devotee said, please, if you're on your way to Vishnu, please ask Vishnu, please ask God, how much longer I have to wait? How much more do I, because I'm working, I'm very hard and practicing spiritual life, how much more do I have to wait? Okay, if I remember, I will ask. And then he's going on, and then he meets another devotee who's almost dancing, very happy. And he says, Narada, where are you going? I said, I'm going to heaven. He says, then please ask God about my state too, about my situation. So he says that. And then Narada goes to heaven and comes back. Now, Narada, either because he's mischievous or it's actually the fact, he gets the answers that Vishnu gave mixed up. So the person who was quite advanced state but worked very hard and saying, Narada, did you ask about my state? And Vishnu said, yes, I did ask. You see, you have 4 more lives before you can get realize God. And this person says, 4 more lives, I can't bear it. I can't bear it, and it's too much for me. Then the other person comes running and says, Narada, did you ask about me? He says, yes, I did, but you see, your situation is like this. I know you're very happy and joyous and all that, but you see that tree over there, as many leaves on that tree, that's how many lives you have. But then, instead of reacting like the first person for whom 4 more lives was too much, this devotee said, oh, at least it's a finite number. And he started dancing again. And it seems at that time that he got liberation right then and there. The point is that in spiritual life, it's not a drudgery or a terrible ordeal that we're trying to go through. It's not the most joyous kind of experience that we can have. Not only the culmination, but the process too, the journey as well. And Sri Ramakrishna said, God is of the very nature of love and bliss. So how can we spend any time thinking about the divine and not also feel love and bliss? Now, part of that joy, as we are in the path, as we're in the process, comes not so much from, we can't identify it completely from the divine ground, at least we don't know that. It's not as if when we go into meditation, we reach a state of ecstasy or something, but part of that joy along the path, when we're on the path, comes from the company of each other. See, each other's company as devotees gives us joy. One, personally, it gives us encouragement. I'm not alone. I want to live a spiritual life, and I try my best to live a certain way, to think in a certain way, to act in a certain way. But then when I come here, I realize I'm not the only one. Others also are trying to do the same thing. And that company of devotees gives me joy. I'm not alone, and gives me encouragement. We can feed off each other's enthusiasm. So when I'm down, when I come to the center maybe with a burden of something on my mind, and I see your happy face, and I see your enthusiasm and activity, it cheers me up, it lifts me up, it lifts my spirits up. Therefore we can encourage each other, we can feed off each other's enthusiasm. In the Gita, there is a statement, Kadayantas chamam nityam tushyanti charamanticha, constantly discussing me, not repeating my name. Katha is to tell about me, to talk about me. They're constantly talking about me. They derive a joy and happiness. So as we, for example, the reading we have, or the kind of discussion we're having, that kind of thing, it is a kind of katha that we're telling, and therefore we get a kind of joy from each other. So my goal is, of course, my own spiritual realization and experience, but the congregation can help, and it does help in a significant way. And as we go on this journey together, as we share each other's company, day in and day out, or week after week, event after event, we sort of become a kind of family. The congregation becomes more than just unconnected people having a similar goal. We develop a kind of affection for each other and a relationship. We become a family, and we are knit together by a common desire for a common goal and experience, namely the spiritual life. And so from that point of view, not talking in the abstract, but talking about this way which is most relevant for us, namely the path of spiritual progress, to go from I to we is very natural. It's a very natural thing, you see, because I need the company of the devotees to may help me in my progress, to compensate for my ups and downs, to encourage me when I'm down, and in turn for me to encourage others when they're down. And in this way, we strengthen each other. So I would say, not speaking abstractly, but in the context of our spiritual congregation, to go from I to we is the most natural kind of thing that we could do. Even in general, though, even if we weren't devotees, the move from I to we, I claim, is still natural. There is an educator, pedagogical person, Piaget, who formulated a lot of things about early childhood education. And one of the things he tells us is that when children, when they're at a very young age, they don't seem to be conscious of much else other than themselves. They live in a sort of world of their own in a way that everything is self-centered. And he discusses how they have conversations with another person where the other person doesn't really exist. I mean, they're talking to you, a real person, but the conversation is only one way. I say something and you say something else, and then I say something that is completely unrelated to what you just said. The conversation is one way. So the baby starts off life in a sort of, just sort of focusing on itself, and just awareness of I. But as we grow up, we start to recognize that there are other people in the world and they make a difference in our life. And we recognize this is not altruism, it's just a reality. We recognize an interdependence. Maybe I depend on my mother to get me food all the time, when you're a child. So you start realizing there's a certain interdependence. If you imagine, and this continues more and more, the problem though is, as we grow older, we get so busy and caught up in our life that we sometimes don't stop to reflect on this interdependence, which is in fact a reality. Just imagine, for example, when you got up this morning, in how many ways you depended on other people. So here's an instance. So when you get up in the morning, you go to the bathroom, maybe you have a sponge, you use a sponge. That sponge was made by somebody in the Pacific Islands, probably. You use soap, it was probably made somewhere in France. You use a towel, it was probably made in the Philippines. Then you finish you come and you want to have your breakfast, you try to have some coffee, it was probably made by somebody in South America. Or if it were tea, it's probably from India or China. Or if you have cocoa, it might be from Africa. The bread that you eat may be from Canada, the orange juice from America. Then you get dressed and maybe the clothes are made in Bangladesh. The point is that if we just reflect, even in the process of getting up in the morning, washing ourselves, having our breakfast and getting ready, we depend on practically half the world already. So even in terms of the people that I personally know, our life, yes, it has become very busy, but even in that busyness, the way we've structured it, we are very, very interdependent. There is no just I. It cannot be just I. It is us. In 1967, Canada's centenary year, the CBC Massey lectures, every year CBC has the Massey lectures. The CBC Massey lectures were given by Martin Luther King Jr. And this lecture was somehow not published until recently. There's a very interesting observation he makes in that. We are all caught, this is Martin Luther King Jr., we are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of identity. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. Now he's, of course, a spiritually minded person, but he's talking about this from the social reality that he was grappling with at that time. 1967, was a pretty intense year in America in terms of civil rights and his movement. Unfortunately, he died just a few months after saying this speech. But you see there that even if I'm not going to the level of our spiritual path, just in terms of our life in the world, there is a great interdependence. I can't just say me, it is us, it is we. Now, it's not that we evolved a social structure or a kind of organizational structure in which we're sort of made deliberately to try to ignore this. You know, something that strikes me as very, very unrealistic and unreasonable is the way that we think that we have to be competitive to get ahead. You know, ask ourselves, where did this come from? There's a kind of hypothesis that in order for me to succeed, you have to fail. In order for me to be happy, you have to be unhappy. That's the foundation of being competitive. Competitive means somebody is going to win and somebody is going to lose. If I'm going to win, that means you have to lose. So this thing is sort of built into a lot of our social institutions, and we wonder where it came from. What we have to learn is not competition, but cooperation. Moreover, this is again not a question of just altruism. It's not just, it is, of course, the way I phrased it right now, why should my happiness be based on your unhappiness? That alone is enough argument to saying we should cooperate, we should not compete. But even in terms of efficiency, competition is not the most efficient way to do it. Swami Vivekananda gives the example, suppose we're in a movie theater and watching a movie, and there's a fire. And we all make a mad rush for the door. What happens? A few will get out, many will be injured, some will die. In fact, the door and the exits are sufficient and there is enough time for everybody to get out properly if we were organized, if we cooperated with each other, if we did it in an orderly way. But so here is an example of how by competing with each other, we actually do ourselves a disservice. And so it's more, even from a practical point of view, it's more efficient to learn to cooperate and not compete. So this idea, I'm not sure why it came up about, but it's a model based on that society uses. It seems to me it's a model based on a feeling of lack or scarcity. Something is scarce. Some resource is a scarcity, and therefore there isn't enough to go around. But that is not the spiritual point of view. The spiritual point of view is that in fact there is abundance, there is enough for all of us. It's interesting that this point about if we cooperate we will be more effective in whatever we do, this is well understood in the sports realm. Sports teams understand this very well. It's a discipline that's drilled into them right at the beginning, that in order for the team to succeed, we have to cooperate. So it may be, for example, that I will be in a position to score a goal, but for the sake of the team, it may be the right thing to do to pass to another person, let them score, knowing full well that whoever scores is going to be the hero. But maybe there was an obstruction here. So the teams learn that for the success of the team, I have to sacrifice myself. And so it's not I, but we. Somehow that team spirit has not left the sports arena, and as soon as we leave it, it's again every man for ourselves. The same thing happens, by the way, in terms of our social interactions amongst countries. You see, if we're able to cooperate, a lot of the things that we consider want or scarcity can be solved. A lot of the problems, fundamental problems that we have, can be solved. What is the obstacle? It's not the problem. It's because of the lack of cooperation. It's because we refuse to acknowledge it is not I, but we. And also, the point is, once we know that people don't cooperate, there's another danger. Once we know that there is division amongst us, people can exploit it. Of course, how do people stay in power? It's by exploiting divisions. And so, even for the goodness of society, for the success of society, we have to learn to cooperate and also make it known that we cooperate with each other. So the time has really come for a globalism kind of perspective, that we cooperate on a massive scale, especially now if we want to solve the fundamental problems that are facing the world. Now, human beings, despite all of these things, human beings are naturally inclusive and social. We're kind of social animals. But the problem, as I said, is that either because of external pressures, or because we allow our own prejudices and our fears to become dominant, we're afraid. We're afraid to cooperate. We're afraid to say, not I, but we. But as I said, our nature is to be social and to be inclusive. Being alone is an aberration. You know, in the Indian, the ancient method of how life progresses, the stages of life, the concept of sannyasa, or complete withdrawal, is a unique case, an unusual case. It's not the normal course of events. The idea was that as you grow older, maybe you withdraw from society, but not as a recluse or a monk. It was Buddha who sort of institutionalized that whole concept of sannyasa. But now, whatever the merits or demerits of that, we're thankful that in our time, Swami Vivekananda has turned that all around. He has changed that even the concept of sannyasa has been turned around as an instrument for social good, as a vehicle for the practice of unselfishness. That's one of the great innovations of Swami Vivekananda. Now, Vivekananda, look, is a great Advaitin, person who could be absorbed in a spiritual state, but there he is, being the architect of an instrument by which great social good can be achieved. You know that there's a song by Swami Primeshananda, Sri Ramakrishna Parshadapandana, I think that's it, where he describes the different devotees, different disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And in that, the adjective that he uses for Swami Vivekananda, you remember what it is? Paramadayalu, person of great compassion, person of highest realization, the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, the person on whom Sri Ramakrishna placed the entire mantle of his work. He is Paramadayalu, person of great compassion. And this seems to be an interesting thing, that the highest spiritual realization also seems to be connected with also the highest compassion and inclusiveness. We heard the reading about Holy Mother. Now, Swami Vivekananda has a very important poem, which I think has a message that we have to take very seriously, and we have to study it and try to incorporate it in our lives. This is a poem. It's called To a Friend. I'm sure many of you are aware of it. It's a long poem, so it's meant to be studied over a period of time. But I will point out two verses that really stand out for me. So what does he say? He says, his final verse, these are his manifold forms before thee. His meaning God. God's manifestations are all these manifold forms. Rejecting them, where seekest thou for God? Who loves all beings without distinction, he indeed is worshipping best his God. So in one verse, what he's done is, he's connected a couple of things all at once. First, yes, you are a spiritual aspirant. Your goal is spiritual realization, spiritual experience. That God that you seek, though, is here manifest in all these forms. And so, the sadhana that you're trying to practice to realize that God, it is in and through the service of these people. Who loves all beings without distinction, he indeed is worshipping best his God. It's a kind of new mantra, really, for this age that is given, both to everybody, both to devotees and to monks. Who loves all beings without distinction, he indeed is worshipping best his God. So it's love that drives us from I to we. Because love is the binding glue, if you like, that connects all of us together. What exactly is love? I mean, exactly we cannot say. It's not a mathematical quantity to define precisely. But love, the guna, the lakshanam of love is the elimination of distinction. You see, you have two beings or even two things that are different. Love is the thing that says, no, they're actually not different. When you see, for example, when people have love for one another, what does it mean? They become close, almost function like one. When love is very deep, you can't separate the two people. You can't, or many people, you can't separate them. They function as if they're one. So love is this elimination of distinction. It is, according to Vedanta, our very nature. It's not something that you acquire. It's not something that it's good to do, for social behavior, it's good to be loving. Love is our very nature. Moreover, this important point is there, that it's our very nature and it's equivalent to consciousness. It is equivalent to consciousness. In other words, this whole business of our awareness, our sentience, which is rooted in consciousness, is the same as love. So much so that people call it loving consciousness. You can't separate it. Chidananda. I mentioned this as an important point because in Western philosophy, consciousness is a big subject now. It always has been. People have discussed it in many different ways. But consciousness, even in modern discussions in Western philosophy, consciousness is only something which is an instrument of knowledge. Consciousness is something that reveals knowledge. I've not heard, even the latest discussions of David Chalmers and Dennett and other philosophers who are trying to grapple with what consciousness exactly is, this idea that consciousness is never alone, it's always accompanied by love, is simply not in the discussion. In other words, it is whenever I know something, it's also accompanied by a sense of love. So the love and knowledge seem to go together. I think now there's a job here for philosophers, especially philosophers who have an interest in Vedanta, namely to build a philosophical model of consciousness which has this idea of love in it. People are talking about things like qualia, which is the subjective experience that you have when associated with consciousness. And there's a huge debate going on whether qualia exists. The materialists on the one hand will say it doesn't, and then there are others who say it does. But even qualia doesn't address this issue of love. And it's an important thing to address this because love, firstly, is our own nature, and it is what drives us from I to we, because it is the glue that binds us together. So this point is about love cannot be understated. Why is love so important? Because it is in and through love that we have a transformative effect. In Christian theology, the word is soteriative. I think that's the word. That which is conducive to salvation, that which is transformative. For us, the analog of that is that which is transformative. Now, we have many examples of this instance that you can lecture to people for the hour, it has absolutely no effect. Show them some love, and immediately you communicate. There's a story of Swami Kalyananda, who was a direct disciple of Swami Vivekananda. Now, Vivekananda had two disciples, Nischayanda and Kalyananda, and he sent them both to Hardwar, Kanka, which is outside Hardwar, to start a hospital. And that's a very fascinating story, which many of you know, but it's worth reflecting on that story. But in Swami Kalyananda's time, after Swami Nischayanda passed away, Swami Kalyananda became the center. And in his time, there's a story that's told, and I heard this story from Swami Sarvagatananda, who worked under Swami Kalyananda. He said there was a person who used to come about once a month to the ashram. And whenever he came, he would ask for Swami Kalyananda. And so Swami Sarvagatananda, I guess, had a position of having to know who's who and whether they. We asked him, who are you? And he said, no, I just want to see Swami Kalyananda. Yeah, I can help you. No, I just want to see Swami Kalyananda. Okay, so he gets Swami Kalyananda, they go, Swami Kalyananda goes, gets some money, gives it to him, and this man goes. And this happens for some time. And so now you have to understand Swami Sarvaratana, before he joined the order, was in finance. He was studying for to be a chartered. So he kept an eye on the accounts. And so he asked, look, Swami, this person doesn't do any work. He just comes once a month, you give him money and he goes. Who is he? He said, there's some... Kalyananda was a man of few words, actually. So he wouldn't say anything about it. Then, after time passed by, Kalyananda passed away. Sarvaratana became the head of the center. It's also an unusual thing, because he's not even a brahmachari yet. He was made the head of the center. And then this man came and said he wants to see Swami Kalyananda. I said, I'm sorry to tell you, Swami Kalyananda is no more. The man collapsed, started crying. I said, who? I said, what's this? Tell me the story, who are you? Then he told me, a long time ago, he was an honest person, he had a job, he lost his job. He wasn't able to feed his family, he was in bad shape. Then what happened was, out of desperation, he stole some food to feed his family. He was caught, and people were stoning him. A thief was caught. People don't wait to find out what is the story. They're stoning him. At that time, Swami Kalyananda was passing by in a cart, cart, and then he saw this commotion, and he quickly went and stopped and said, "Stop! Who are you? What's the problem?" And they told that he stole food. So, without asking any further question, Kalyananda says, "How much is it?" So they told him, and he said, "Here's his money. So you have your money, you're satisfied." Okay, so they went away. Then he told this man what happened to you. And the man told the story that this is my situation, what can I do? I have to feed my family. He said, when you're in need of money, come to me. So he said, when you're in need of money, come to me. And so that was going on for some time. He didn't try to preach anything to him. He didn't tell him about morality and ethics, not good to steal. He didn't do anything, he didn't say much. But you see, the point is the reaction of that. What he did was he showed love. He showed unconditional love. What happened now? This Kalyananda passed away, you see the impact on that man. He collapsed. Then he's telling all the story, he says, then he says, oh, Sarvaratana told him, don't worry, you don't need to cry. I'll give you the money. I know Swami used to give you the money every month. I'll give it to you. He said, no, that's not the point. That man was a god. And so he says, what can I do? Then he says, what can I do for you? That man, can I be a volunteer here? Can I do something for you? So the point is that through love you transform. You change life. And so it's not through the intellect, it's not through lecturing, but you actually change your life. There's another story in the life of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, as you know, his ashram is always open. There's nothing closed or anything. So once a thief came into the ashram to steal something. And of all places, he had to choose Gandhi's room. So he came to steal something. Now, as he is speaking about before he is able to leave, Gandhi and a number of people enter the room. So what happens? He quickly goes to a corner and ducks. Because he can't get out in time. He ducks. So Gandhi sits down and the other people sit down and they have the discussion. They're starting to talk about various things. And Gandhi, I guess, noticed this person sort of ducking. And so then at one point in the discussion, they needed file or something from the other room. Then he said, come over here. We called that person who was ducking and said, I need your help. Go to the next room and ask so-and-so, I need a file. Give it to me. He doesn't know who this person is. He could guess, I guess, somebody's ducking and he's probably a thief. He didn't ask anything. He just said, I need your help. So he said, so the man went to the next room, got the file, and brought it. And then he still didn't dare to leave. He still crouched in the room. So Gandhi continued this discussion, and again he needed his help. Like that, it went on apparently the whole day. He was asking, go there and get this, talk to so-and-so, find out this. And the whole day is gone. And now the meetings are all over, and everybody leaves, and now only Gandhi is there, and then man is there. And then he has not told me, who are you? He said, I'm a thief. I came to steal. But you see that the whole atmosphere has changed me. You didn't judge me. You must have guessed who I am. You didn't judge me. You trusted me, and you employed me in your work. I want to be a volunteer here. Again, another person who realized that he wants to be a participant in this. Point is that why is love so important? First, it's our nature. It's not something we're making up. It's our nature. And second thing is that it is transformative. Have love, will live. This Swami used to tell us, have love, will live. As long as you discover the love within you, you will live. Now, where is that love? It's within our own heart. Again, a poem from this poem to a friend. I will quote a verse that from Vivekananda writes, I born heir to the infinite, the heart. Within the heart is the ocean of love. Within the heart is the ocean of love. Give away. Whoever asks return, his ocean dwindles down to a mere drop. So you remember I told you that in these people who talk about competition versus cooperation, they're thinking from the sense of lack. There's some scarce resource that we have to conserve. He's saying, look, inside you is an ocean of love. Give it in abundance. You have enough to spare. You won't run out. But if by any chance you try to ask in return, if you have that mentality of a scarcity, your whole ocean dwindles to a mere drop. You don't even realize, I don't even realize the wealth that I have within myself, that ocean of love, when I think in terms of scarcity. So let me, a few minutes, let me sing you an interesting song that sort of captures this idea. I think it's a nice song. Let's see if I can do justice to it. I went out into the world. Where was love? Who would know? I went out into the world. I looked high, I looked low, but nowhere could I find that sweet peace of mind, till I found where I should start, right in my heart. If I have love, pure love in my heart, sweet love in my heart. If I have joy, yes, pure joy in my heart, sweet joy in my heart, I will find peace, sweet peace in my soul. I will be free, this is my goal. Let me find pure love, oh, let me find pure love in my heart. You see, the point is that when you find that love is not somewhere else, that you need to go seeking for it. It's not also that I need to receive love. In you is the ocean of love. And the more that you can give, the more you can share, the more you discover about, firstly, the more harmonious our life is in the world, the more you discover about yourself. See, in the song they say, I want to be free. Freedom is the goal that I want to find. And I can do that when I find love in my own heart. There's much more to say about this whole business about not from I to we, but the fundamental theme that I want to make sure that I've communicated to you is that that process, firstly, is natural. We are very social beings. It's very natural for devotees, but it's also natural, I think, in society. And what pushes that process forward, that allows me to go beyond myself to all of us, is love. And that love is our own nature, and it is infinite, and there is enough there that we can give in great abundance. eventually that not I but we will mature into not I but thou. The point where, like Holy Mother does, where she actually denies herself. We don't need to start there. Sometimes when we mention this as the idea of not I but thou, people think, oh, that's too hard. I'm not there yet. Yeah, okay, that's okay. We're not there yet. But we can start with not I but we. It's a very natural thing to do. It's a very easy thing to do. It will make life very sweet and very smooth, and we will for sure grow into our spiritual ideal. So that is my prayer then, that we will reflect on this whole idea from I to we, based on the love that is within our heart and our ability to share it with others. Dear Ramakrishna.